In true Degrassi fashion, Season 2 wastes no time getting back into the weeds of junior high life. What better way to start a new semester than exploring the public perception of teen pregnancy from the guy's perspective? Like a lot of people, Spike is of the opinion that having a baby is easier for the baby daddy, which is true in some ways. Part of her anger towards Shane is due to the fact that he helped her get pregnant, which of course is silly but not unrealistic, but her resentment also stems from him being able to choose not to tell his parents, a choice that he sticks with for a long time. Everyone gets to know Spike is pregnant without her permission by the sheer fact that baby bumps are visible, but Shane can fly under the radar. Of course, that's not true with his classmates, but his parents and non-school personnel won't know until someone says something. This is partially why she doesn't want to meet Shane's parents. Spike can't help caring what others think, so if she can save herself some embarrassment, then she will. She's also afraid that Shane is only going to be halfway involved. As soon as it gets hard, gone he'll be because he has that option. Spike is just stuck. That's what Egbert was supposed to test. She still likes him, but wants to be sure that her feelings are justified. I actually have to wonder if her inherent distrust of Shane is related to her absent father. Her mother had her young too, and her father obviously isn't around. Maybe she doesn't want history to completely repeat itself. And speaking of being stuck, some of her frustration can be seen in how she responds to be reminded that she needs to think of the baby. Skipping breakfast, drinking soda, normal teenage things that she'd do if only she wasn't pregnant. She hates being controlled or told what to do, so now she's going to give birth. Spike hates that people are telling her how to be pregnant, including staying at home or going away until the baby comes. Continuing with this theme valuing choice in her life, she also resents when people do things on her behalf, like when Caitlin tried to make her into a public figure. The issue of kicking pregnant girls out of school is much bigger than Spike, but no one asked her how she felt about becoming the face of a cause. True, she certainly doesn't think that she should be removed and would not wish it upon anyone else, but that doesn't change that Caitlin's article treated her as a talking point for a cause, just like the parents who wanted to kick her out of Degrassi. Going back to Shane, his character this season really was a rejection of the thought that pregnancy is easy for the guy. Of course, he doesn't have to carry and provide nutrients to another entity for 9 months, but he too is susceptible to mockery. While Spike faced ridicule from the school board and the PTA, Shane got it from his own parents and his classmates, his peers accusing him of the same thing Spike was, having it easy. But it especially wasn't easy for him, with his parents making their disappointment in him obvious. He already felt pressure to prove himself to them, having older, successful brothers and being the only one of them not to go to private school, but getting a girl pregnant? How do you admit that to people who make it clear that they look down on, in their words, kids who are messing themselves up? He's caught in tension between wanting to do the right thing and the threat by his parents to send him to private school, and that dilemma draws out as he tries to fill both wants at the same time. It may seem from the outside like a petty thing to conflict him about being there for the child he helped to create, but it's different when it's happening to you, and you're risking isolation from everyone and everything you knew, and an uncertain future as punishment by your family for being a disappointment. But he tells them. Even though he knows that they'll push stronger to send him to private school, he tells his parents. Shane wants to prove that he's responsible by caring for the baby, that he's not a failure for having unprotected sex, and that he won't bail on Spike. A path certainly not easy to track. Not only has he opened himself up to being a father for the rest of his life and has to face the inevitable shaming from his parents, but has also signed up for giving up his youth to care for another person. Also in the first episode, we start to see the next stage of Stephanie's development. She has redefined what being an adult is, and now is dressing like the real Stephanie, which suggests that how she looked last season was more of a reflection of what she wanted to become than who she was. The true Stephanie is still rather petty as she explains why she's justified in staring at Liz. She shows some cognitive dissonance during that scene when she criticizes Liz for dressing provocatively, even though she was dressing no better at the time, and saying that Spike wasn't a freak like Liz simply because she was Stephanie's friend. But the most interesting part about Stephanie this season is her descent into depression. It starts with pining after Simon, who pursues Alexa for dressing in Stephanie's old clothes. Thinking that his affinity for Alexa is based solely on her appearance, Stephanie immediately drops being the real her. But the trouble is, even though the clothes initially brought them together, Simon legitimately likes Alexa, something that Stephanie has to learn the hard way. And by the time that this truth is made clear, everyone has abandoned supporting her in the quest to win Simon's affections. While the twins were initially encouraging of this pursuit, even they wanted her to give up on it after it had gone too long. This means a lot to Stephanie because she can normally just get what she wants. Wheels, school presidency, even alone time with her soap opera crush, but not Simon. She can't even manipulate Joey anymore. It feels like she's losing control of her life, and it's made even worse when her parents reopen the divorce. Just when she got used to the current setup, now her parents go back to fighting over the fates of their children. What's worse, she doesn't even get along with her father, who got the ball rolling. The divorce was supposed to spare her and Arthur from the constant fighting, but it appears nothing's changed. And then on top of that, her mother is seeing someone new, someone who is taking away her alone time with her mom and trying to place himself into her life. All the while, it seems that her mom doesn't even care for how Stephanie feels about it all. She feels alone, something that can happen even while being surrounded by people. It seems that she's lost agency in her own life, and it's gone to the point where no one would care if she just disappeared. We even see this change in thinking symbolized by how she dresses throughout the season. After being rejected by Simon and learning that her father is seeking custody of her, Stephanie spends less time and effort on her appearance. Fewer accessories, little styling with her hair, until finally she just comes to school as though she just rolled out of bed. Low effort outfits and barely combed hair. She's withdrawing from everything she used to care about, even her friends and junior high drama. All of this is communicated visually, and often as a background event that rewards astute viewers who notice her slow descent. Props to the sound designers this season. Stephanie's daydreams and listless wandering scenes are made uncomfortable to watch with the eerie music that plays throughout the episode, audibly giving us a taste of Stephanie's current state of mind. While it seems over-dramatized how often and nonchalantly Stephanie talks of suicide, I find it believable. Stephanie isn't one to suffer in silence or hide her emotions. She's a vocal person who will tell you exactly how she's feeling, as she does with her thoughts on her mother getting engaged after 2 months of dating. I think the most interesting part is what pulls Stephanie out of her depression. Arthur. More specifically, realizing she isn't alone and that someone still needs her. Their mother's decision will also be difficult for him because if she gets her way, Arthur will need to change houses and leave the life he's built with his father. He too is at the center of their parents fighting and has to deal with their mother's new beau. It's not that Stephanie's strife isn't important because Arthur is facing the same things, it's that she has someone in her life who knows how she feels, someone who she can help deal with the situation they found themselves in. While not every case can be resolved by finding out you're not alone, it helps Stephanie. And with this newfound assurance her existence matters to someone, she returns to her former self, ready to take on high school. Unfortunately, Stephanie wasn't the only one to dance with darkness this season. As mentioned last season, Lucy doesn't receive much attention or care from her parents. They started to act more like a family after she was caught shoplifting, but it didn't take long for them to return to working late and always being absent from their daughter's life. On top of that, Vula moved away. Though Vula tries to stay her friend, her parents are still upset about what happened last season and are making it difficult for them to keep in touch. We see Lucy try to seek friendship in LD as she done with Vula. She even tries to use a scarf again to figuratively tie them together, but it's not the same. LD isn't Vula. All she does is remind Lucy about how distant her parents are and that no matter how much she says otherwise, she hates being alone, which unfortunately makes her a prime victim for Mr. Colby. He made her feel special. He was one of the only adults to take interest in Lucy and the only teacher to make her feel that she had potential, but it wasn't interest in the right way. LD noticed it right away, but when she voiced her observations, Lucy rejected them as LD being jealous and wanting to take away the one person who seemed to care about her. But he didn't care about her. Thankfully, Wheels prevented Colby from doing anything more than touching Lucy, and although he was very willing to provide witness testimony, Lucy didn't report him immediately. Not because she truly felt nothing happened. She was embarrassed. She didn't want anyone else to know what happened, and in the time between episode 2 and episode 12, she brain cracked the situation into partially being her fault for being vulnerable and it not even being as bad as Wheels and LD say. On top of that, Colby kept affirming to her that nothing happened, that he was only trying to help Lucy, and she's the one getting the wrong idea. She was fine with going on like nothing happened, until he started preying on Susie. The realization that not speaking up allows Colby to hurt other girls made her decide to report him. And we see the same thing in Susie. She had to consider that in a few years it could be her little sister who Colby turns his eyes toward in order for her to not take the same route as Lucy did in keeping silent. Just because he can't directly hurt Susie or Lucy anymore doesn't mean he can't find someone else. And the report probably did have consequences for Colby because we never see him again after the season. Something interesting to note about this plotline is the difference between Colby and a teacher like Miss Avery. She too is rather touchy with her students, but it's never in a predatory or remotely sexual way. Nothing like how Colby interacts with Susie or Lucy. As in real life, terrible adults are sadly not hard to come by, like Kathleen's mother. Kathleen is a fairly nasty person, and it's a bit surprising to me that Melanie is still her friend, but now we can see why she's so terrible. All of her affirmations of how awesome her mom is and statements about how much her mom is involved in her life are lies, covers to hide how it truly is at home. Instead of listening to her monologue for the play or coming to the quiz show filming, her mother just drinks all the time. Kathleen channels all of her energy into being the best at everything to impress her parents, especially her mom. While her father's often traveling for work, at least her mom is physically near, and there seems to be a chance that if Kathleen just gets the right combination of achievements, maybe she will finally care about her daughter's life. She also uses her quest to be the best to distance herself from everything she sees wrong in her mom. To her, alcohol is evil, no matter the moderation, and she stands firm that any kind of perceived recklessness, such as sex before marriage, is beneath her. Lack of control is the shortfall of those around her, and as we'll see in the next season, Kathleen is determined to maintain control in everything she does. My favorite part about Kathleen's story this season is watching how Rick and Caitlin try to help her. Even though Caitlin wanted to aid Kathleen, she wouldn't accept it, especially with how direct she was about Kathleen's mom being an alcoholic. Kathleen has too much of a sense of public face. That degree of openness doesn't work with people driven by shame. Even if you try to help, it doesn't mean it will be accepted. However, Kathleen was receptive to Rick's sort of hands-off approach. He didn't immediately tell her that something had to be done, but instead opened with his own experience with a terrible parent and just tried to be a friend. He knows someone else forcing their way into another person's business isn't always the best approach, and uses that insight to help Kathleen at least admit that there's a problem and consider talking to a group that specializes in helping kids with alcoholic parents. We don't know if she goes through with it, but at least she has someone she feels comfortable talking to about her mom. It's not for lack of care that Caitlin doesn't make progress with Kathleen. She truly cares. She wants to help people, and that's seen in her trying to argue Spike's case in the school newspaper. Again, she was wrong to not talk to Spike before making her the face of a cause, but that doesn't dismiss the good intentions behind it. She also needed to at least address the other side of the debate of kicking Spike out of school, which is part of why Raditch rejects her article's edition in the paper. It wasn't because he didn't want Caitlin's points to be heard, but because he saw it was not objective. It was an opinion piece that did not present a full view of the issue at hand, and the school paper's mandate was to publish facts and events, not narrow-sighted opinion pieces in which the people involved aren't even spoken to about the work. A quick aside, I love those moments where Mr. Raditch has to balance representing the school while also being sympathetic to its students. He can't really take a side with the debate over Spike's fate, so he tries to encourage her friends to help her no matter what is decided. While he wants to see Joey succeed and stay with his friends, he knows that Joey would be better helped by retaking the year, and Raditch even admits as such. He cares about Joey enough that it was made hard to inform Joey of the decision. He was also willing to stay after school to help Joey understand grammar, though Joey only asked him so that he'd have an excuse not to fight Dwayne. Once more, I must praise the cinematography and the acting of the show. This season, Caitlin learned that she has epilepsy and naturally tries to hide it, even to the point of not taking her medication. Though it's made clear that she's on the road to another seizure throughout the episode when we see her space out at random moments, it doesn't diminish the intensity of the scene when it finally comes. It's very uncomfortable to watch. You feel like Caitlin's friends as they panic, trying to figure out what's happening, how to help her, and wanting her to just stop. You're almost thankful when we cut to the next morning. Caitlin feared being seen differently now that she has epilepsy and aimed to proceed as normally as possible. But the person who changed how they treated her the most was Caitlin herself. After failing to get the lead in the school play and beating Kathleen as she always does, Caitlin attributes it to her illness. She uses epilepsy to escape her failure by citing it as an excuse to just quit the play. But as Susie rightfully points out, epilepsy isn't an excuse for jealousy, and that doesn't justify giving up on the things that she enjoys. And who can forget
Joey Jeremiah, chairman of the welcoming committee.
We've all likely known a Joey at some point, but boy can he be awful. Still, I'm glad his character was useful for bringing up a very important point. Just because you dress a certain way does not mean you want sex. Liz wears the clothes that she does because she likes it, not because she's asking for a guy to get with her. Also, what does a girl who has sex look like? Wheels and Stephanie nearly had sex, but they dressed fairly normally. Spike and Shane had sex, but the only thing that stands out about either of them are Spike's spikes. It's a shame that Joey felt that Liz's style meant that she wants, nay, expects sex from a guy because they both liked each other. Joey isn't a perv for wanting or thinking about sex, but he's a jerk for assuming that Liz was DTF without even talking to her about it. I do have to admit, it was interesting to see Joey go from bully last season to being bullied this season. On one hand, I get a little bit of pleasure seeing him taken down a peg for being a jerk. It seems that Dwayne is just retaliating for being mocked previously by Joey, as he keeps bringing up that Joey constantly speaks lowly of his class. And Dwayne isn't completely evil. He helps Scooter every chance he gets because he feels he needs to stand up for the little guy. Still, his desire to fight Joey is not pure or justified. As Dwayne states, he wants to fight because it makes him feel good, not that it'll prove anything. Also, though Dwayne acts as a defender of the little guy, he's about to get into a punching match with a guy much smaller than himself. And boy, what an unfair fight it was. You certainly understand why Joey doesn't want to fight Dwayne. It's not that he doesn't stand by what he said, it's that Joey doesn't much care for getting beaten up. Simple self-preservation. What I find interesting though, is that telling an adult is never considered. The kids see it as something they need to handle themselves, and there isn't a need to get anyone with authority involved. I find this very true to life and a good lesson for Joey. His actions have consequences, and while he technically can run from them, they'll catch up sooner or later. Like his poor marks and lack of effort in school culminating in him being held back while his friends get to proceed to grade 9. It was nice to see Joey have to take the advice he gave to Wheels when they believed that he might be forced to repeat the year. What you say to someone else may not ring true or be harder to accept when it's reflected back at you. But I'm sure Joey will find someone cool among his new classmates. A real gem of this season is the episode where Erica tries to distance herself from being seen as just a part of a set. Not just because of the awesome visual gag where Erica is talking to Doris looks back to Erica but sees Heather instead, implying that she honestly can't tell the difference. I love that moment every time. Actually, my favorite part about it is the message of the episode isn't "don't kiss or else you'll get a disease." They very easily could have punished Erica for kissing a random boy or even slut-shamed her for being reckless. But they didn't. The real point of the episode, as much of Degrassi is, was exploring the characters involved. Erica learns that while she and Heather are truly different people, having a look-alike isn't the worst, especially because she doubles as a best friend. And looking exactly like someone does not make you both the same person. Heather is sensible and doesn't care for things like French kissing or tricking someone into liking you. Erica wants adventure, the spoils of romance, and loves the things that seem wrong or dangerous to Heather. And those who can't tell or don't care about the differences don't deserve to be in either of their lives. This season of Degrassi Junior High really got into the weeds of being young, especially the darker aspects. While they dipped into such topics last time with exploring a case of child abuse, it seems like the floodgates were opened and the show was allowed to dig deeper now that they had their footing. To my memory, of the 3 seasons of Junior High, this is by far the darkest in regard to subject matter. Not that the others didn't explore such topics, but this time around, the density of them was greater. It really helped set the stage for the stories yet to come in the Degrassi franchise, ranging from seemingly trivial drama to truly dangerous situations. Thank you for consuming this video, and until next time.